On today's show, I sat down with one Rock Hill teacher to see how her background inspires her students. We find out which Grammy Award winner is releasing their second album of the year. These stories and more on this edition of HTN Daily. What's Rock and Rock Nation? I know it feels like I keep saying it, but we're one day closer to going on break for 2 weeks, so power through those performance tasks so we can all get out of here. As always, I'm Beau Cormican, and we're live from Studio 1060. COVID has affected all of our extracurricular activities, but how is the power of music persevering through these hard times? Khshaeta Cama has the answer with today's news.
Thank you, Beau. Here are today's announcements. Tonight at 6:30 in the auditorium, the Rock Hill Symphonic and Chamber Orchestras will be premiering their winter concert. Admission is free to all. Please make sure you bring a mask and stay socially distant from others. The National Art Honor Society is rocking teacher short with feathers of encouragement. If there's any Rock Hill staff members that you want to cover their drawers in feathers of affirmation, scan the 2 QR codes on your screen in order to schedule and pay for the decor. Order before Thursday night and see your favorite staff member's door transform. With the news of the release of the new COVID vaccine, Governor Abbott has said that the Texas may receive 1.4 million vaccines. However, you may not expect to get the vaccine until 2021, for this round of vaccines will primarily be used for frontline healthcare workers and people at high risk. That's all of today's news. Back to you, Beau.
Our CTE programs are lucky to have several instructors with industry experience. Law enforcement students have the right teacher to show them the ropes. I sat down with Dr. Teresa Fox to see how her shift in careers is helping in the classroom.
It's difficult to find a mentor who has had the career that you strive for, but for the law enforcement students of Rock Hill, they don't need to look much further than their own teacher, Dr. Fox.
I started in law enforcement over almost 25 years ago now. I started out in patrol. I spent over half of my career as an undercover officer.
Dr. Fox never had a platform to tell her experiences to anyone, but after retiring from being a police officer, she found an unlikely new way to share her passion by teaching.
And that's how I ended up. So I just started out subbing. And then when I started sharing my stories in the law enforcement classes, and then the position came open, and it was kind of just organically developed. And it's always amazing to me how when I share little stories, they want more and more. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm just naturally kind of guarded because of the kind of work that I did previously. But when they want more and more and more, it kind of encourages me to share more. So I've learned to be a little more giving in the information that I share.
Reading things in the textbook is one way to teach, but oftentimes the real deal is so much more satisfying to learn from.
Yeah, she has so much of experience and knowledge, and I think we're lucky as students to have her because of how knowledgeable she is about the real world when it comes to law enforcement and the background of it. She has just so much of knowledge, and I'm lucky to have her. I guess you could just say that she definitely takes what she has learned and experienced to help us out and help us understand how all of it really connects in the real world.
For HTN Daily, I'm Beau Cormican.
Now I'm going to send it over to Anica Hankey with today's Rock Hill Report.
Thank you, Beau. Big news for Taylor Swift fans today as Taylor announced her 9th studio album coming out tonight at midnight. This album will be a sister album for the 8th album, Folklore, and will be called Evermore. Folklore came out earlier this year in July. The release of this album was inspired by her birthday and said, quote, "Ever since I was 13, I've been excited about turning 31 because it's my lucky number backwards, which is why I wanted to surprise you with this now." Evermore features 15 tracks on the standard album with 2 bonus tracks on the deluxe edition. With the pandemic, many movie releases have been postponed. Earlier this year, Warner Brothers claimed that they were committed to they claim and announced that all 17 films scheduled for release in the United States in 2021 would premiere on HBO Max, in addition to theaters. Some of these movies include Wonder Woman, 1984, Matrix 4, and Dune. After this announcement, it has caused mixed reactions within Hollywood and consumers, from the cost of these streaming services to the financial impact of theaters. One of our favorite childhood shows is coming back. Paramount announced that there would be a revival of the Nick show iCarly. This revival will feature the original cast with Miranda Cosgrove, Jerry Trainor, and Nathan Kress. The reboot will be produced by Jake Hogan, who tweeted about this project, writing, "People were asking what I was doing, now I can tell you. We get to make iCarly for adults." That's all for this Rock Hill Report. Stay up to date by following our social media pages at Rock Hill Media. Back to you, Beau.
College application season is in full swing, and an important part of any college application is test scores. Today we brought in Assistant Principal and Testing Coordinator Miss Kelley on the show for more information. Grant?
Thank you so much for being here, Miss Kelley. So before we dive into the reason that you're here today, I want to just ask you, what is your favorite holiday song?
I would say our go-to is Sleigh Ride or Santa Claus is Coming to Town.
And why is that?
My kids love that song, and we are avid Christmas carolers in our house. We start very early and always sing the Christmas music. So.
And you mentioned early, are you guys the ones that go before Halloween, or when did the decorations go up?
We do not. We were peer pressured this year by the neighbors who had lights up in October, and my son said, we're not doing that. But right after Halloween, he was like, okay, we need to get our lights up. So we start about the first week of November.
I think that's the best time to do it.
I agree.
Awesome. Well, now that we're done talking about the holidays, let's go ahead and dive into SAT and ACT. So many colleges have waived the SAT and ACT requirement for admission, but is it still important for high school students to worry about?
Yeah, it's definitely important. They did waive it last year. We haven't had the final word on this year, but we're obviously assuming and hoping, but it's not final yet as far as I understand. But typically, outside of a pandemic, 25 states do require SAT or ACT for college admission, and it's also 60% of our scholarships require an SAT or an ACT score. It's also never going to hurt. It can entice some universities, and if you don't like your scores, you don't have to submit. There's a lot of research to prove that testing is really great for learning and retrieval, and so it's a good experience to go through regardless.
Yeah, I know that I personally got caught up in the whole COVID mess. I was trying to take the test in March, and then everything kept getting pushed back and pushed back.
Yes.
So when is the best time for students to take the test this year?
So this year in particular, it might be a little tricky. I would say as soon as you're healthy and can, and a school is open for testing. But under normal circumstances, junior year is typically when you want to take an ACT or a PSAT National Merit, the NMSQT version, and try to get qualified there. This year, there is an exception because of COVID where kids can use SAT as an entry point for National Merit scholarships if they missed the PSAT due to quarantine or COVID. But senior year, right before summer, fall, you definitely want to get signed up for the SAT.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for joining me today. Back to you guys at the desk.
That's all for today's show. For HTN Daily, I'm Khshaeta, Cama.
I'm Anica, Hankey.
And I'm Beau Cormican. Mask up and rock on.